Welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. The Pharmacy Leaders Podcast is a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, with interviews and advice on building your professional network, brand, and a purposeful second income from students, residents, and innovative professionals.
Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast. I just wanted to go over phase 2 of the match. Congratulations to those of you that did match. I know you're really excited. It's nice to know you've got a job next year. But I wanted to go over the numbers and where you get the stats and kind of what to make of it. So let's actually see what happened with the phase 1, and then I'll talk a little bit about phase 2. So right now, if you go to natmatch.com, ashprmp/stats.html, there's 3 sections. There's phase 1 statistics for applicants, phase 1 statistics for programs, and phase 1 statistics by program type. And the temptation might be to go to the applicant section because you are an applicant. But I would actually go to the phase 1 statistics for programs. And what you want to look at is the very bottom, where it says how far down the list a program would go. And the reality is that programs will not actually go very far down the list at all. If you look at the number of programs, 1514, and divide 247, by that 1514, you're going to see that it's a really tiny number. So here, equals sum 247 over 1514. So it's 16%. So only 16% are willing to go to number 4. So basically they rank 3 or less, or they went 3 down their list, and they just said, if we don't get these, we're going to try again, or we're not going to do this. And that's important to know, because if this next group, when you're going into the second match, these programs have already not matched or been frustrated with the process because they didn't get one of the people they wanted. Rejection hurts both ways, and although this favors the applicant over the program, they don't want to lose out again. So I think while the rules are similar-ish with 1 and 2, I think the 3 most important things that you can do in the second part is, 1, make sure you have an actual relationship or a connection to the place that you're going to apply to. I think just blindly applying to a bunch of residency programs and hoping one picks you is really not going to work. The other thing is that as you're looking at it and you're saying, oh, well, community residencies matched at 80%, managed care at 92%, and hospital at 93%, maybe I should think community, even though all of my background is hospital. And yeah, I get you'll get a residency versus not get a residency. Some jobs require residency, some don't. But is really what you want to do for the next year of your life to just be in a residency regardless of the type? And I would, if I had, I went into community residency, if I had applied for a hospital residency or had the option, I still wouldn't have done it. I would have just got a different type of job because it's just not what I would want to do. And I know there's the feeling that, well, I have to match, I have to do this, and that's not true. We've got one of the best economies in the country, or in our country's history, and it's, instead of just saying, well, I have to get the second thing of the match, then that's really what I need to do, is just get a residency no matter what. And I think that the programs are much more on high alert that someone's going to try to just get a residency. So make sure you know someone there, or at least talk to the people before you put in your application. I think blind applications are going to be a lot of trouble. Okay. So number 1, residencies are not going to go very far down the list. Number two, make sure you do have a connection in some way. And number three, what are your odds? So all things being equal, what's the chance you're going to get a residency with this second part? And I can't see the numbers. I can see these numbers, but I can't necessarily see the numbers that are in phase two. So I'm going to look real quick to see if they have anything published on phase two statistics, and they only have the statistics from 2018. And what you can do is you can see that the percentages that will be filled are going to go way up. Managed care filled all of their unfilled positions in 2018. So if it was just a matter of, there were more managed care applicants than there were, spots, and maybe there's just some shuffling around. The PGY1 community, they filled 48 of the 52, they filled 48 of the 56, and so they filled 85%, increasing their match rate. And then the regular PGY1s filled 203 of 209, increasing as well. And I think the reason for all of these increases, so there's an increase in the percentage of matching from the program side because you've got now a much larger group applying for a much smaller group set of positions. Now, if every single unmatched position went in and every single student went in, your chances of matching are 15%. Okay, so if you rolled, trying to think of what's 15% as a fraction, you could reduce it to divide 5 into, so 3 out of 40, is that right? No, 3 out of 20. Yeah, so 3 out of 20. So you have a 3 out of 20 chance overall of matching. But I don't know. I think that some programs are going to be frustrated with the process. They're going to be frustrated that they didn't find anybody the first time because 49 positions didn't rate anyone at all. They were so disappointed in the people that were coming in that they just said, forget it. If we can't get someone we like, we're not even going to bother. So I think there's going to be some similar feeling. And because there are so many students applying and so few programs, and one program deciding it doesn't want to do a couple of matches really changes the odds. So I think your odds are closer to 5 or 10%. I would think closer to 5, maybe 1 in 20, that you're going to get one. Now, that is a misconception in that if you roll a 20-sided die, going back to my Dungeons and Dragons roots, that if you roll the 20, then you get it. It's just like that. I think the odds are actually much more skewed than that. I think that now, more than any other time in part 2, it has to do with your relationships. So if you didn't post and tell every single person you know that you didn't match, you're actually doing yourself a disservice. As pharmacists, as Pharmacy Nation, we love helping people. We love seeing a comeback story. I am 10 times more excited about knowing if the people that didn't match than I am about those that matched. And no disrespect to those that matched, that's great, but everybody likes a Rudy story, and for whatever reason, the person who didn't match, a lot of times, so let's kind of go backwards to the process. So the process of PGY1 matching and PGY2 matching is different. If you're in PGY2, you see a different column filled early. And that column as a percentage, okay, that column as a percentage of the available programs and available positions is absolutely huge. And I'm going to, so I did the math, and 0.35%, or a bit over a third of PGY2 positions are filled before the match even starts. Now, why does that matter for you? You're not PGY2, you're looking for PGY1, or most of you are. Well, what I'm saying is that you are drawing dead. There are many of the programs where they already knew who they wanted. They already had a relationship. And because the match does not allow early fills of PGY1s, about 1/3 of your trips, your interviews, you were drawing dead. There was no way you were going to get that residency, regardless of if you went to the Harvard School of Pharmacy, graduated first in your class, and were president of every society. They already knew who they wanted. And they'll never post this, they'll never put this out there, but residency directors don't want to be rejected either. And so if they know they have someone that absolutely wants what they have, and this candidate is a known quantity. Maybe they spent 16 weeks with them in one of those longitudinal rotations. Maybe they've already worked there for many, many years, and all of these different factors. But I'm telling you that I think that number is easily doubled when you go into the second phase. I think that 2/3 of the second phase, and this is conjecture, 2/3 of the second phase match are going to have a relationship or a connection to somebody who knows somebody in that. So when I say your chances are 1 in 20, and you say, well, if it's 1 in 20, I'm not going to apply, I would say the other way around. I would say if you don't know anybody, then you need to get to know somebody. And I'm not saying, okay, publicly throw out on Facebook that you didn't match, but you would be amazed at the support that I saw one, and I'd never seen one before. One person put up that they didn't match, and the positive feedback, the well wishes, the courage, all of that went to her. And I think it is an absolute necessity that you make clear, hey, I didn't match. I'm still looking. And this is how people are going to have to find jobs in this market as well. Hey, I thought I had a job with such and such. I'd interned with them for 3 years. There just weren't enough spots, though they wanted to hire me. Do you know of anyone that's hiring part-time or full? And that can go on for months. But you have this narrow window. So while the natural odds are probably 1 in 10, I would say, 1 in 20 probably to match if you were just talking about the numbers, it's time to look in those LinkedIn connections. It's time to go on Facebook. It's time to talk to everybody you know, and this applies for your job as well if you're not looking at residency, you're looking at jobs, and change the odds. So you can change your odds. And I feel like I'm going with some kind of quote from, one of the movies where, you can change your stars or something like that. It was a movie set back in medieval days or something like that. I just can't remember off the top of my head. But you can change your odds by getting connections, finding which residency sites you know or are local, because it's much more likely that someone in the Midwest is going to go to a Midwest residency. And so all the things that you can do to make a residency director feel good about you, about your commitment to the program, about your commitment to the match, are the things that you can do. So those 3 things hopefully are helpful. And again, good luck in phase 2. And make sure that you change your odds.
Support for this episode comes from the audiobook Memorizing Pharmacology, a relaxed approach. With over 9,000 sales in the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia, it's the go-to resource to ease the pharmacology challenge. Available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon.com, in print, ebook, and audiobook. Thank you for listening to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. Be sure to share the show with the hashtag #PharmacyLeaders.